So what we want to deal with this morning is the drip tape. So some of you guys may already have it, some of you guys might be looking at getting it, but you'll get in your box 2 of these black rolls. One of them will have these centerpieces in, a bracket, and then a couple of pins. Firstly, to assemble it, what you'll have to do is grab your roll and your bracket, stretch it over like that. Just get one side, just stretch it over the end of it, and it goes into that hole, and it'll just pop down like so. Then the other side, it's still got nothing in it. You'll get one of the pins, so we provide 2 pins with it, and one to go into here, like so, and then the other one will be to go through this side here to hook onto your planter. What we want to do first is spool it up. So there's 2 ways of spooling it. If you've got new drip tape, you'll probably have this hooked up onto your machine. I'll show you that in the video. Or otherwise, what you want to do is if you want to reuse your drip tape. So we do a bit of market gardening here ourselves, and we like to reuse our drip tape. It's not expensive per se, but it's just good for the environment to try and not waste as much. So what you want to do is get your drill and hook it onto the shaft at the end here. Most of your standard cordless drills will fit. Tighten that up so that when you press your drill, it turns your thing. I always have it in, this is a 2-speed, I always have it in first just because it spools up pretty quick. And so here's some drip tape that we've laid previously. You can see it's all underground here. Little hole here. We'll just stick a little bit of that in there. And then we'll hold this here and start spooling. Oh. So now, what I'll do, I've got a bit of tightness on there, I'll just walk down my row and I'll spool this up as I go. So you have, this is for us, we're using 36 meters runs, but you have a full length of this, and because all my beds are the same length, I'll just reuse this again in a minute, you'll see. Your second hand stuff, because it's been swollen up, it doesn't usually lay as flat as your brand new stuff, so you can usually get about 150 meters on one of these rolls of your brand new stuff, whereas I'll probably only get two runs of this 36 meters on here at once. So now I've got my 2 lengths, 36 meters on one roll. I'll take my drill off. Take that off like so. I just tighten them up a little bit, and I'll put them on my planter. So to install this on your planter, what you want to do is take this pin out, pull your handle out, put this in here, and you want to make sure your drip tape is running through the back. So you wouldn't want it that way, you'd want it this way. So I'll just sit him there, I'll stick my handle through there and put my pin back in. So then what you want to do is get that second pin that we provided in my pocket, and you want to put it through up the highest hole possible, and that'll hold your tape in position. You see it unrolls back to front to what you want your toilet paper. You want your toilet paper coming out the top, you want your drip tape coming out the bottom. So this one here had a knot in it. I'll probably roll it up back to front, so I'll just undo his knot. Right, and that bit there is going to be tricky with it all bent up, but if it's flat, it's really easy to stick in. You want to make sure your blue or your drip is facing up. So it doesn't matter what way it's spooled on here, you can twist it in this little part here, and make sure your blue is always facing up. So I'll come down through here. Then I want to poke it underneath these 2 bolts down here. So like I said, because it's a bit creased, it'll be a bit tricky to get through. But it's come through down here. And now, it's a bit like threading a sewing machine, isn't it? Now what you want to do is, one last place you want to get through is this little bar down here. It's got to go underneath that. Once you're in there, it's just a matter of pulling it through a little bit. I'm going to go get my paper pots and we'll get some planted. We're planting with our CP1 Pro. This is our Series 3 we've just brought out. When you're planting your paper pots, it's the same as always you've done. Just string them out, put them in the ground, make sure you pull this paper off. I'm not going to bore you with them details. The only thing that I will strongly suggest is, so we've got 3 heights here, 30, 60 and 90 mil deep. I generally plant with my 90 mil deep when I'm putting drip tape in, because it lays in flat. But once it swells up to about 30 mil. And then if you've got inconsistencies of the ground, you want to make sure that seedling's well covered. These here are beetroots, so they don't mind being a little bit deep, but it'll depend on the crop that you're growing and the amount of water that you have. When this here water, these are 150 mil spacings in the drippers, so they usually water, if you get it set right, the water will go directly into the bottom of the cell, and I'll show you a photo in a minute of the last one we did. You have just a wet pouch around each one of your seedlings. So I'll string out my first paper pots, and as usual I just leave it there, and when it gets enough soil around it, it'll pinch in and close up and it'll just start feeding. With this here, if you overspool it like we just did, it can have a tendency, if you're irregular speed, if you go faster and slower, to unspool a bit like a overhead fishing rod. If you don't know what that is, you'll soon see. So we'll just start pulling, and you can see there a bit of clod in the soil. So you can see it's planted really deep here, like really deep. The leaves are just sticking out there. I personally prefer that, because once we plug in, you'll see that it'll swell up and it'll push all the paper pots up out the ground about 30 mil. We'll plant this whole lot and we'll plug it in and let you see in just a second. This is what I mean. So one of these will just come off because she's overspooled and there's a bit irregular there in my speed. And try not even as we had before. Ready to go. And now last but not least, I always make sure I overhead water my seedlings that I've transplanted, even though we've got drip tape underneath. Well, they start up here. Just to settle the soil in around the seedlings, it's best to have overhead irrigation.